Luxury student housing has become more prevalent in Colombia to a fault. Since 2010, these complexes have been constructed: Brookside Townhomes, Brookside Downtown, The Lofts, The Domain, The Grove, The Den, and Aspen Heights. While there's nothing intrinsically wrong with luxury housing, Colombia has become oversaturated at the expense of more affordable housing. Further complicating the problem is the fact that many of the luxury complexes fail to live up to the advertised glory of the promised experience. As an American, we all have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as promised by the Constitution. A critical component of attaining happiness today is a college education. Aspiring students should not be constrained from their educational pursuits by an extraneous factor such as affordable student housing. The students have a right to pursue happiness as given by the Constitution. As such, the City of Columbia has a duty to zone local housing so that it is still available in a decent price range, and therefore to not zone expensive luxury student housing. Since 2011, the City of Columbia has issued building permits for 1,178 apartment units in high-density structures compared to only 966 permits for single-family to detached dwellings. The City of Columbia should also take into account that if the University of Missouri were to drop off in attendance, the property zoned for these student housing complexes will be useless and thus taking up valuable real estate. In addition to the constraint of affordable housing, certain luxury housing companies in Colombia have failed to live up to the standards agreed upon in the lease. The students signed a lease to have rights agreed upon for safety, security, and quality. The leasing company, the luxury housing companies, then have a duty to provide the agreed upon attributes that were signed upon in the lease.
Now this is Brookside Apartments, and Brookside looks to be a pretty nice place, and from what I've heard it is, but something that's a little different about Brookside is a couple months before Brookside was opened, they had a fire. Now the problem with that was Brookside signed leases before the construction was done, so they had to then find places for these people that signed leases to live because the building wasn't complete by the time the leases were supposed to start. So this is yet just another example to show why these companies are just interested in making money, not providing the best for their customers.
Problems when moving into Aspen Heights?
They delayed the move-in date about 2 weeks, which was an issue because parents took off work, so it made it hard to get everything moved up, and then things weren't finished, built, and everything, and not everything worked, even with the delayed move-in date.
Just mainly construction problems, like our downstairs bathroom had the cabinets broke, my upstairs bathroom has the cabinets broke, and the heating distribution is all off. Like it'll be about 90 degrees upstairs and 60 degrees down here.
Have you heard about any problems in the area around Aspen Heights?
Yeah, there's been armed robberies, break-ins, shootings, and rapes, and their security hasn't done much to slow them down.
There's been a lot of crime around here lately with robberies and rape, and there's even been an incident of a shooting down by the 3600 block.
Don't you feel like that's kind of absurd in a student housing area?
You would think they'd get that under control pretty quickly, and they seem to be blaming the issues on a higher Columbia crime rate instead of really fixing it.
Have you confronted the staff about any of these problems, and how did they react?
We confront them about most of the problems, and sometimes they'll get it done in a timely manner, but other times they would just forget about us, like our refrigerator. The ice maker is broken, and they have yet to respond to that. That was about 3 weeks ago.
The Den has been running advertisements saying that it is the most luxurious student housing in Columbia history. According to an article in the New York Times, as private housing developers try harder than ever to outdo the amenities that their competitors offer in college towns, concern is growing about the academic and social consequences of upscale, off-campus student housing. The spas, tanning salons, and sprawling pools offered by these complexes, which often require their tenants to be students, are a far cry from the traditional on-campus residence halls that may house classrooms and faculty and host lectures and academic discussions. Thanks guys for watching, and I hope that this sheds some light on the luxury student housing issue in Columbia.